On this edition of the NESN Red Sox podcast, we'll talk about the news surrounding Manny Machado, who reportedly landed with the San Diego Padres, and then we'll also talk about the Red Sox closer situation.
And we'll take a look at some of the dark horses to follow in spring training, storylines, prospects to keep an eye on, and everything to look forward to as camp gets underway.
Swing and a miss, strike three, it's over. The Red Sox have won the World Championship.
The Red Sox walk it off. Mookie Betts. That ball is gone. The X-Man strikes. What a bullet by Devers.
I'd love to see the exit velocity on that one.
It's time to party.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first Red Sox podcast of 2019. I'm Ricky Doyle, joined as always by Dakota Randall. Dakota, it's great to be back.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long off season, boring off season. So it's good to be back.
So here we are in lovely Watertown, Massachusetts, as the Red Sox prepare for spring training on the heels of a World Series title. But before we get into the whole, what's going on at Red Sox camp, a little news broke before we got into the studio to record this.
It did.
So it's pretty good that we were dinking around this morning before we decided to record. Because one, Manny Machado reportedly has agreed to a 10-year, $300 million contract with the San Diego Padres.
Yep, and it's the largest contract in North American pro sports history in terms of free agent contracts, that is, not counting extensions or anything like or annual value.
So, I mean, we won't spend too much time on this. It was obviously a little bit of a curveball we got thrown today. It was pretty apparent. I mean, this guy was going to sign eventually. I mean,
right.
It's been looming.
And one of the things we're going to talk about a lot today, or at least touch on, was the quiet off season. That's been a huge topic, and so today we finally got an end to all the silence. Finally got one of the guys.
And so now, Bryce Harper remains out there, but who knows? That could happen in the next couple of days. Now that the market's been set a little bit. So,
right.
I guess what's your initial takeaway from this whole thing?
I think it's great for Manny Machado because he's going to be in a place where nobody cares. He's going to be in beautiful sunshine, beautiful weather. He's going to be on that team. Is going to be the main guy, so he can do his Manny Machado thing, which is play dirty sometimes, not try most of the time, just kind of loaf around, put up good stats, choke in big moments if he even has any over there. It's a perfect place for him because he gets $300 million and he gets to continue being, the lazy player he likes to be.
So you don't like this move from a Padres standpoint?
No, I like it because ultimately
it sounds like you're just...
Well, no, ultimately I don't think that stuff about Manny Machado really matters. I mean, it's baseball. It's an individual sport. I know it's a team sport, but it's all about individuals, and at the end of the day, the guy puts up numbers. So obviously I'd rather my favorite players hustle all the time and be dirt dogs and all those stupid cliches, but at the end of the day, the guy's one of the best players in the game, and you're much better if you have him. But for Manny Machado, if he had to go to New York, if he ever even slipped up a little bit with that type of stuff, they'd kill him. Any place that cares about baseball, he would get just crushed all the time. So for him, San Diego, no one's going to care. He can make his money, do his Manny Machado thing, and put up huge numbers.
It's kind of funny looking at some of the reaction to this on social media and whatnot, that a lot of people are against it. Just kind of not seeing.
I think it's just because
not understanding the move from a San Diego standpoint, because this is a team that is played in a division that's been pretty good the last few years. It clearly is not at a contender status as of this moment.
But those are the same people who always say, they rip teams like San Diego for never making big free agent splashes, and they're just like, resigned to being mediocre forever. And they say, well, those teams, they never shake things up and sign big free agents, so they always stink. Well, now they finally did one. So I don't know why people would criticize it.
Yeah, I know. Even on, I think it was Monday or maybe over the weekend, that Buster Olney had written that it would make absolutely no sense for the Padres to go above and beyond to sign Machado.
Buster Olney.
I don't understand it. I personally love this move. I love it for the Padres.
I think it's a great move, and they have a good farm system. They have good young players.
To me, it feels like a preemptive strike to them contending. Like, I don't think they're not going to contend this year, at least not what the pitching staff is constructed.
Right.
They might not even contend next year, but 2-3 years down the road, I think you're looking at a contender with the farm system that they've built.
Yeah.
Now that you have a couple of franchise cornerstones in place with him and Eric Hosmer signing him last year, I think Machado's 26.
Right.
2-3 years from now, when their prospect pool starts coming up and making an impact, Machado's still going to be in his prime. And at that point, then you have the center of the focal point of your lineup. It's just I just think they're gearing up for 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is you have, I think it's like $70 or $77 million in an annual salary attributed to Machado, Eric Hosmer, and Will Myers. And again,
The
those
Will Myers contract's weird.
Yeah, and they're all good players, but it's like if you could pick 3 players to put that much salary toward, I don't know if Eric Hosmer and Will Myers would be the other guys, but it's good for them. They're trying to make a statement that we're not just committed to being okay or sucking all the time, and I think it's a good deal. And I think it's cool that finally someone else got in on this stuff, and it's not just the Yankees, it's not just the Red Sox, it's not some of the bigger market teams in Chicago. It's cool to see San Diego. When's the last time they did anything interesting? The Eric Hosmer contract.
I don't know. I think the Padres have been like a sneaky, interesting team over the years.
I think just because
how about that? Like the trade, the Kimbrel trade,
right,
on opening day, that was wild.
We'll get to Kimbrel in a little bit too, but
so they've I feel like you think of the Padres as just like this random West Coast small market team, not going to be huge players, and then they just all of a sudden come out of nowhere and make a headline.
Yeah, and they make some pretty good deals too. Like they got the catcher from the Indians, Francisco Mejia, for Brad Hand. That's a good deal for them.
James Shields back in the day.
Yeah, that was
signed him.
Yeah, that was bad.
So
their track record isn't perfect, but I think they've got pieces there. They have some good players, and obviously their pitching staff blows. But you never know.
That's a trash.
If you can piece it together, maybe you're in sort of contention by the trade deadline. You go get somebody. Maybe you piece it together, but. I think the Snakes, the Diamondbacks, are going to stink this year. I think the Giants are going to be down. The Rockies are good, so they have no chance in the NL West. But if everything goes right, maybe they're in the wild card hunt. And so
who knows? But to give you an indication of how jazzed I am for this podcast, I'm currently standing up now after starting. I was sitting down at the beginning of this thing. I've just got the hands in the pockets. I'm ready to roll.
I don't know if you stood throughout the duration of every podcast.
I think last year, yeah. I don't know, a little more.
Are you one of those
stander?
Do you just stand and just pace in your apartment all the time?
Well, no. We generally sit at desks for the most of our days here. So I like
have you started to notice any
to get up and move around a little bit?
You've been here longer than I have. So you've been sitting on your ass for 8 hours a day for longer than I have.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any problems?
Like aches and pains?
Does your back hurt? Does your ass get sore?
Not really. You know what is the worst is staring at a screen a lot.
There are some days where I just get dizzy.
I have legit concerns about my eyesight when I turn a certain. My eyesight's already terrible.
Yeah. It's like my concerns about always having the ear pod, the in-ear headphones in all the time and blasting out my hearing.
Yeah.
And those things haven't been around long enough to really judge the long-term effects. So likewise, we don't know the long-term effects of staring at a computer screen all the time.
Right.
We're the test dummies.
Our health woes aside, you mentioned Craig Kimbrel. It's a good segue there for you. It's a guy that he's still out there among the free agents out there. At least, he'll probably sign by the time now that we post this podcast. But anyways, it seems more and more likely now that the Red Sox are not going to bring him back. They've been pretty adamant about that it's been unlikely, this entire offseason. But I think it's getting to a point now where...
Well, and Tom Warner said yesterday it's not happening.
That it's extremely unlikely, I think,
so that's
how it was put. So I think it's safe to assume he's not going to be back unless you feel otherwise. I
don't think
words in your mouth. So if that's the case...
I would say it wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me because... I thought he was a good fit, and I think he had a lot of fans in that clubhouse. And the playoffs aside, I thought he did well here, and I think it would be a good fit. But someone is going to, whether it be the Phillies or the Braves, that don't have good closers, someone's going to pay more money than the Red Sox will ever consider paying.
See, I think the bullpen could be a real issue for this team. And
that's
we said that right up until the World Series last year. But
that's the biggest storyline of the spring, I think, by far.
I think
anyway.
I think losing Kimbrel is being undersold a little bit. The impact that's going to have. At the same time, it doesn't surprise me that they're not bringing him back. They exceeded the luxury tax last year, highest payroll in baseball. Probably going to be the case again this year. But if you make that expenditure. It would cost them so much money based on them exceeding like that second tier of the luxury tax. So essentially, they would be, if they would have signed Kimbrel, I think right now their payroll is around like $240 million, and that second level is like $246 million.
But they're not signing Kimbrel.
So basically, they have very little wiggle room. So if they would have signed him, based on the taxes and everything, say they signed him like a $17 million deal, it would ultimately cost him like $30 million for this year.
Right,
which is
exactly.
is not going to happen.
Right.
So
yeah,
financially,
so
it doesn't make sense. I don't know if maybe that played into like when those reports over the offseason about them trying to shed payroll, shopping some guys around.
Right.
But basically, it's just they're not really in a position to make that type of financial investment.
Well, okay, they are. The Red Sox can pay that money if they wanted to.
They
but
could.
they have elected to not want to be in that position. There's a difference between not being in the position and refusing.
Okay, they could be in a position to do anything they want.
Right, I know. Well, I'm saying
this isn't a case of them being cheap.
No, I don't think so. But it is a change in philosophy. So it's just this isn't. The Red Sox still will pay tons of money. Don't get me wrong, but they're not just going to keep throwing it to the wall like they used to. They learned from the Hanley Ramirez contracts and the Pablo Sandoval contracts.
Well, I mean,
and
you
they're
also
just not
spent $68 million on Nathan Eovaldi.
Right, and you did, and I thought I still like that signing. It's risky, and then obviously you have all the other guys coming up, and I think they'd rather, there are other guys on the roster that they'd rather just retain rather than go out on the free agent market and do that whole thing.
That's the thing too. Is there's a lot coming down the pike that they have to worry about.
Right.
So, which I thought was kind of interesting to go off that Eovaldi thing. 4 years and $68 million, or 4 years, $67.5 million, I think it was.
It's way too much. It's way too much.
Well,
but I mean, I like Eovaldi, and I think you finish your thought. I have a take on the Eovaldi thing.
Oh, well, go ahead, because I was going to link it back to Kimbrel.
Well, and so maybe this changes now because they've been talking about, or Henry and Warner talked yesterday, and we've heard all this other talk about the Red Sox opening conversations with Chris Sale about a possible extension. And I don't want to give professional athletes too much credit, but Chris Sale does strike me as the rare guy that might take a hometown discount to stay in a place he likes. Like I don't think that's something athletes really ever consider, but he strikes me as someone who could. But we have no idea what's going to happen there yet. So for me, when I heard about the Eovaldi signing, I looked at it as the Red Sox thinking, David Price no longer is an ace. And if Chris Sale leaves after this season, we're left without an ace again. And so rather than go out and find a way to either make a huge trade for some number 1 or number 2 starter or try and throw all your money at a free agent after this season, I think they took a gamble and said, we're going to pay a little bit more for Nathan Eovaldi than necessary with the hopes that maybe he's one of these guys that just becomes an ace for 2 or 3 seasons. Like, he's definitely not one of these career-long ace Hall of Famer type guys like a David Price or a Chris Sale. But, every once in a while these pitchers come along that they're number 1 type pitchers for 2 or 3 years. And I think the Red Sox looked at it and said, we're comfortable with this guy, we've seen him, and if we pay him a little bit more than necessary, maybe it ends up working where he gives us way more value than that. And it's just a possibility where, then if Chris Sale walks, you say, well, Nathan Eovaldi is basically our ace now. It's a gamble, but I think that's just, they're thinking, maybe we get lucky and he really, really pitches well and it helps us, be okay with letting Sale go. Because what if Chris Sale goes out this year and has, a vintage Chris Sale year, suddenly you're talking about Chris Sale for $200 million again. And I don't think the Red Sox would be comfortable doing that, just given the shoulder in his frame, his history of breaking down. They don't want to do that, so they want to have someone fill the ace role if he leaves. And I just don't think they want to do another David Price contract or make some crazy trade. So I think they just hope maybe we'll get lucky and it's Nathan Eovaldi. And so for that reason, I like it because I think he has the stuff.
I think that signing him to that deal might even be more so to safeguard against Rick Porcello leaving.
Well, that too. But he's better than Rick Porcello. Well, I shouldn't say better. They're different pitchers. Rick Porcello.
Very different pitches, but I think that you could.
The ceiling is way higher on Eovaldi.
The ceiling's there, but I think you could expect comparable production. Like, I think that they might look at it as if Rick Porcello leaves after this season, you still have Nathan Eovaldi who's going to replace those innings in that production.
Well, I don't know about, you can't say replace the innings because Rick Porcello is one of the last true innings eaters out there. And so I don't think Nathan Eovaldi has given us no reason to believe he can eat those kind of innings, or anybody on your staff for that matter.
Okay, maybe not him singularly, but like
right.
Basically, what I'm saying is, if you lose Rick Porcello, you're losing. That's 200 some odd innings you're losing right there on your staff. Right. You got to replace those innings somehow. Well, but if you let Eovaldi walk this offseason, and then you let Sale and or Porcello walk next season, like you're building an entire rotation from scratch, like this.
Right, which is why I think they know that they're married to Price now, so they can't make a huge investment. You can't pay Price the money you're paying him, and then they want to sign Mookie, they want to sign Bogarts, they might want to sign Benintendi, who knows, Jackie Bradley, and they're not going to be in a position to go out and get another David Price or make another one of those trades to get a bona fide ace. So I think they're really hitching their wagons to hoping Eduardo Rodriguez turns a corner, develops into a legitimate number 2 or number 3, and Nathan Eovaldi, gives you what he gave you towards the end of last season, but for a full season. It's a gamble, but I think they're crossing their fingers and hoping this works out.
So to circle back to where we started with the whole Craig Kimbrel thing, it's incredibly difficult right now to figure out his market. I mean, obviously, it's the beginning of the offseason. It was suggested that he was looking for a 9-figure deal, looking to really blow away the competition in terms of relievers historically, the contracts that they've secured. Asking price presumably has come down. It seems like it's come down. Don't know. Still don't know what he's ultimately going to land. Say he lands a contract somewhere in the realm of the 4 years, $68 million. 4 years, 67 point. You don't think so?
I mean, if Luis Severino's getting $45 million, I know it's different.
That's a whole different.
I know, but
that's not on the open market. That's apples to oranges.
I know it's not, but I'm saying and Aaron Nola got that too. I'm just saying.
These are all not even.
I know free agent contracts are different, but there's no way pitchers of that quality are going to get around 50, and then Craig Kimbrel, who honestly we can agree is a choke artist in the playoffs. And
so all right, Zach Britton got 3 years, $39 million.
Yep.
Craig Kimbrel is better than Zach Britton.
I mean,
yes, you can't.
Right, but
Britton, at his peak had production that was okay, in line with Craig Kimbrel. Kimbrel is one of the best closers of all time.
But saves are so
32.
Overrated. I mean,
it's not even saves. It's by any metric imaginable.
No, but we all watched Craig Kimbrel over the last 2 or 3 years. Regardless, 3 years.
He's filthy.
3 years. But we can all agree he was not nearly.
That's recency bias.
No, we all could. No. He had the second year was really good. The second year was a dominant season. Even though he got into the playoffs and gave up that what was it, a 2-run home run in Game 4 against the Astros, whatever it was. He came in, needed to hold it down and keep it a 1-run lead, and he didn't. And then he comes out last season and stinks in the playoffs too. And 2 out of the 3 years with Craig Kimbrel, we saw it where 3-run lead, he's great. 1-run lead, he's walking guys, he's yanking balls. He's great. Don't get me wrong.
I think you and I think a lot of other people are underselling how good he is.
Numbers-wise, he's one of the best pitchers of all time. But I know we argue over the eye test, but if you watch it, you can't tell me that every time Craig Kimbrel entered the game in a big spot that you weren't thinking what is about to happen.
With him,
all 3 years.
If it was going off the tracks, it happened right away.
Right,
it wasn't a slow build. It was pretty apparent through his because
but it wasn't just that it could happen right away. It could happen in one pitch. He would mow down the first 2 guys, and then first pitch to the third batter, it's way outside. And it's a 4-pitch walk, and then it's a 2-run home run.
Okay.
I mean, he's way, and I know.
So I listen.
But I don't want to talk about Craig Kimbrel
because the guy's got his warts. So does every other person in Major League Baseball. But what I'm saying is like the totality of the track record, like this guy's legit. I think you're underselling him.
I just think you pay.
So what do you think's a reasonable contract for him?
I think the Britton contract is reasonable. I think something like that is fair.
He's going to settle for 3 years, $39 million.
You can't go out there and be that bad in the playoffs.
How can you possibly
you can't
sit there as his agent, look him in the eye, and say you're about to sign the same contract that Zach Britton, who just had a weird season, still 2 years removed from the injury. Like, I don't know how you could sit there and advise him to sign that same deal.
Because you can't. I mean, I'm sorry, it's your own fault. You can't go out in the playoffs and be your team's supposed lockdown closer and then have your team legitimately win in spite of you. I mean, they won in spite of Craig Kimbrel.
So you're saying that the postseason
Craig Kimbrel, the only reason the Red Sox almost lost and didn't win the World Series, one of the biggest reasons was Craig Kimbrel. I mean, it's some of those games that just turned into dumpster fires in the 9th inning.
I'm not disputing that.
I mean, you had to. They were. I don't know. Not to mention he can't go 2 innings, which is another conversation.
So you really think 3 years, $39 million is what you're?
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about Craig Kimbrel too much because the Red Sox aren't going to resign.
So what? I guess I already know the answer to this question. I was going to say if you could sign Craig Kimbrel for 4 years, $68 million, or Nathan Eovaldi for 4 years, $68 million.
Nathan Eovaldi.
I would too,
yeah.
But I think that
I don't even think it's a conversation. I mean, I think both are overpaying, But
I mean, it's essentially $17 million annually.
But I'll take a starter in what Evaldi gave you in the playoffs.
I agree. And I also
everything
think,
Craig Kimbrel gave you.
But like worst case scenario for Evaldi too is like say he absolutely sucks as a starter moving forward, like he just completely regresses, whatever.
He's
well, worst case scenario is he has another arm issue, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Right.
From a performance standpoint. If worst case scenario, I still think he's a guy you could probably throw in the back end of your bullpen. That
he's absolutely. I mean,
if he was to flop as a starter,
that's not even debatable at this point. I mean, that's why I like that signing. But out of the guys that are, what were you going to say?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. Well, first, do you think they need a specific designated, like a guy assigned to the ninth inning? Essentially, do they need one closer, or could they? Realistically try the closer by committee that was so disastrous in 2003.
Right, that was disastrous.
I mean,
and it's, I don't think anybody's really talked about that. Everyone's kind of assumed they're just going to give it to either Barnes or Brazier or maybe Tyler Thornburg. But Cora talked to Sean McAdam of Boston Sports Journal yesterday, and he didn't say they were going to do closer by committee, but he certainly didn't rule it out. I mean, he said things like, it's too early to know if they're going to go with that route. It all depends on who we have. If we have guys who can get people out and we're comfortable with it, it might be an option. What else did he say? He said, I'm not saying that's the way we're going, but it's something we'll talk about. So, I mean, he's telling you they'll talk about doing closer by committee. So the mere fact that they're even considering it worries me because we can probably pull up the rosters and look at it, but that 2003 closer by committee had Alan Embry, had Mike Timlin,
Chad Fox.
I mean, there were names on that, especially
Bob
Tim
Howard
Embry. Yeah, I mean, and was a good reliever up until that season. You had way better names in that bullpen, and that closer by committee failed miserably. So you're going to tell me that using Matt Barnes, Ryan Brazier, Bobby Pointer, Stephen Wright, Tyler Thornburg, whatever he is now, Brandon Workman is going to be any better than that? Maybe because the American League stinks. You can get away with it during the regular season, then get to the playoffs and do your rover thing. But
I don't think they're going to...
I think they want it to be Thornburg, is what I think.
They want it to be somebody. They want to identify the person. I mean, I think Dave
Right.
Dombrowski made that pretty clear, and I think Cora's comments are probably more so just like dancing around the topic until they figure out who that guy is.
Right. I just think in a perfect world, it would be Tyler Thornburg because he has the stuff to do it. I don't think Matt Barnes doesn't have the stuff or the control.
Do you personally think that they need to have that one guy?
Yes.
Whoever it may be.
Because it's proven time and time again that not having it hurts you. You can't do closer by committee because there is something different about the ninth inning. Some guys can do it, some guys can't, and you just need the ninth inning is different. The other team, every at bat counts. The other team is really locked in, and you just can't be throwing out guys that can't handle that. There's only certain guys that can do it. I think Ryan Brazier has the makeup to do it, and he has the control to do it. I just don't know if he has the stuff. I mean, he's not an overpowering pitcher. He's not that good. I mean, he's decent, and I don't think Matt Barnes absolutely does not have the control to do it. He'll walk two guys every time he goes out there.
I think Barnes has the potential to be the guy.
You need control, and I think his walks per 9 inning are way too high. Unless he somehow gets that under control, maybe he really had a breakthrough last year in the playoffs. But he still walks too many guys.
I think that is a little bit of a concern.
And then
but the ability for him to get a big strikeout in a key spot, that's appealing to me.
But his strikeouts, it's true. But his strikeouts are almost solely dependent on if he comes out there and his curveball feels really great. If he's really snapping that curveball and he's confident with it, then he gets those strikeouts. But if he comes in and he doesn't have control over his curveball, well, he's just going to pour in 97-mile-per-hour fastballs, which are fine and everything, but major league hitters will pound those. He's not.
Matt Barnes had a higher strikeout rate last year than Craig Kimbrel.
Well, Kimbrel wasn't good last year.
No, but I don't think that's an indictment on Kimbrel. I think it's a testament to how good Barnes was for most of the season, which kind of flew under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, and he had a bad stretch.
He had a couple of rocky stretches.
Right. So it all evened out in the end. But
14 strikeouts per 9 innings. There was 6 in the majors behind Aroldis Chapman, Josh Hader, Dellin Betances, Edwin Diaz, and Corey Neville, right ahead of Craig Kimbrel. That's some pretty elite company.
True.
Now, I'm not saying he's those guys, but with the ability to get the strikeout, a pretty solid ground ball rate. His FIP was better than his ERA, suggesting that his overall numbers probably should have been better. I think his BABIP was a little high, so he got a little unlucky. But I just think of the group that you have right now, he's probably the most talented reliever in that bullpen.
True, but I mean, I also think and you can't bank on prospects, but I mean, one of the top prospects in your system is Darwinzon Hernandez. I mean, some rankings, was it Keith Law that had him at number one?
Number one.
Number one, which is like, what? And he's a lefty, throws hard. And, you know, you have him, you have Mike Schwerin. A lot of people really like Travis Lakins. His strikeout to walk numbers are ridiculous in the minors. All he does is throw strikes. And, you know, I think they really, and I don't know when we'll get Durbin. When we'll get Durbin Feldman.
Your boy.
I know. But, so I think they're going to piece this together, and they're going to hope that one of those guys comes up, you know, and is really good in the 8th inning, or, you know, is a late inning option, and then hopefully Tyler Thornburg figures it out. But I mean, let's be honest, if the season starts out and they're losing games because the bullpen can't hold it down, they're going to make some sort of deal. They have to. They can't.
They do, and this is where their lack of financial flexibility with regards to that, like, second tier of the luxury cap threshold could sort of hurt them a little bit, because you want to go into every season with enough, you know, wiggle room to be able to make those in-season moves. So maybe that, you know, they're eventually going to have to pony up more prospect, you know, collateral than they'd like in terms of bringing in a reliever. But
it's also, I mean, you got Carson Smith
right.
coming back. I mean, obviously we expect nothing from him.
Well, I don't know. Is he even going to be healthy enough to pitch this year? I don't know what his deal is.
Yeah, I don't know. And you have Rosmo Ramirez.
It seems like it's Barnes, Brazier, Thornburg, and even Stephen Wright's name has been tossed around.
Yeah.
Which is hard to imagine, but who knows? Maybe they get.
I think Bobby Pointer definitely makes the roster out of camp. I think they like Bobby Pointer.
Well, the thing is too, with the bullpen as a whole, they got some decisions to make with guys that are out of options. I mean, Brandon Workman, Stephen Wright, Heath Embry, Brian Johnson. That's 4 guys right there out of options that you got to figure out how you're gonna.
I could see Brandon Workman coming out and getting shelled in the first month and getting designated for assignment.
Okay, well there you go.
I just looking at the roster.
But I think you give him that opportunity out of camp, barring something wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a useful piece. That sure, maybe he's got a shorter leash, but
I think you know, they proved last year you can get by with a strong closer and just sort of mixing and matching your bullpen. I don't think you can get by with just mixing and matching the entire thing with no closer. So they're going to have to figure it out. You know, and if someone steps up in spring, great. Obviously, spring training games are so different than the regular season that it's going to be really hard to judge anybody based on that. But that's why I think Tyler Thornburg, I mean, he only has 13 career saves, but you know, he did it for like half a season with the Brewers. He was one of the best relievers in the game that year, and just his stuff looks like more of a closer potential. So I think, and you know, again, who knows what you're going to get from him? And you have to feel like for Core, he wants to give someone like Brazier or Barnes the chance first because they earned it with the playoffs. But I think ultimately they would like to see it wind up with Thornburg, or just have him put himself in a position to get a shot. And if he fails, he fails, and you figure it out from there.
The important thing I think is to have that guy though, because I think the committee could go very disastrous. Because like you said,
there's no history.
There's a certain element to pitching that 9th inning. I mean, not everybody's equipped for it. Just like not everybody's equipped to be, you know, for playing the role of stopper if a starter gets knocked around. Not everybody's equipped to be a setup guy. Like there's just. I think there's a value in being consistent with. I think as a manager over the course of 162 games, you'd like to be consistent with a lot of your decision making, and I think that trickles down to the bullpen where you want to be consistent with you know, the roles that those guys have. Because, I think that probably affects preparation more so than we think. Like, if you're a reliever and you're not entirely sure at what juncture of the game you're typically going to come in.
Right.
That could affect when you get a coffee, when you take a dump. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that we're probably not factoring in.
And Core cites, he says about the Astros, you know, A.J. Hinch says Roberto Osuna is our closer, but, you know, that doesn't mean he's going to pitch the 9th inning. They bring him into the 8th a lot. And it's like, yeah, well, they also got him at the trade deadline after they failed to find a real closer during the season. They let Ken Giles go because he couldn't do the job. And Osuna came over, and he was the closer towards the end of the season. And then in the playoffs, A.J. Hinch, like Alex Cora, did the whole mixing and matching rover thing. And I think that clearly works in the playoffs because it's more condensed, and you don't have to worry about workloads because you know the max amount of games you could possibly play. But over the course of a season, and remember, you have to make the playoffs before you can worry about how you're going to match up and do things in the playoffs.
Yeah, the playoffs is just a whole different beast.
And then again, and then in that case, seeding matters. Home field advantage matters, and that's when losing random games to crappy teams that you shouldn't be losing because your bullpen blows it come back to haunt you. And that's why if this thing gets out to a bad start, they can't afford to let it go too long. So I think it's a huge storyline to watch at the beginning of the season.
All right,
we'll find out early.
Let's go 60 feet 6 inches in one direction. Let's talk about the other portion of the battery here real quick. The Red Sox catching situation. It seems they have a decision to make. Essentially, they got 3 guys vying for 2 spots, and it's been made perfectly clear that not all 3 of these guys could be on the roster come open today. They could end up trading a catcher. Which one they're going to trade? Who knows? Whether they make that trade, who knows? But Christian Vazquez, Sandy Leon, and Blake Swihart all in that equation right now. Who do you think's still here come opening day? Do you think all 3 of them? Do you think they make a move? Do you have?
Well, and Sean McAdam also reported last week that the Red Sox are shopping catchers in hopes of finding starting pitching help. So what we talked about earlier with them, maybe replacing a Rick Porcello. Maybe it's some situation where it's Blake Swihart and a prospect for the next Rick Porcello. I don't know. But regardless, they clearly are trying to deal these guys. And McAdam also mentioned that the Red Sox are he cited sources in saying they're very reluctant to give up Sandy Leon, which is crazy to me. I love Sandy Leon too, but for good God, if your pitchers can't find somebody else they'd like to pitch to, I don't know. But I know that it's going to sound biased, but I want to see Blake Swihart get a real shot to at least be the platoon catcher, because I just think the ceiling still is really high. When he was given opportunities last year, I thought he played really well. I thought his defense improved vastly from when he was a rookie. His throwing arm was way stronger than I thought. I mean, you could make the case that, by given his opportunities, he was a better defensive catcher than Christian Vazquez last year. And I know it's a small sample size, and I would still say Vazquez is better, but Vazquez had a tough year last year behind the dish. And so
Vazquez really bottomed out last year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things played into that. I think missing like 2 months with the broken pinky, having surgery and all that played into, certainly was a factor. I mean, it wasn't the overriding factor, but it played a role.
Personally, I'd love to see Swihart-Vazquez tandem, because I remember when
they
were
that's always been kind of like the long-term vision, like dating back to.
At one point it was they were going to just pick between one of the two, and then when they signed Christian Vazquez, it's like, well, they're clearly going that direction. But I think, just platoon them. I think that would be great. You have the one guy who obviously is the defensive wizard, supposedly, with the gun, and then you have the other guy who, if everything goes right for him and if he stays healthy, he can give you some real offense. I mean, switch hitter who has gap power to both fields, doesn't wear batting gloves, which is a huge factor. It's good speed on the base pass, I don't know. I think a tandem catcher with Swihart and Vazquez would be good, but I think they want to try and get value out of trading one of those guys, because I don't think you're going to get anything for Sandy Leon. So I don't know. And they signed Vazquez. To me, at this point, I think it wouldn't be surprise me if Blake Swihart was the one to go.
Swihart's the guy that, like you mentioned, has the most value. He has the prospect pedigree. He's under contract. I don't think he's a free agent until after 2022. So you're getting a lot of control there if you're a team that has the ability to thrust him into that starting catcher role. The upside, obviously, I think they're pretty committed to Vazquez, given the extension that he signed last year.
And he has shown the ability to hit in big spots. He did in the playoffs. He's had some big hits at the end of games.
He was good in the playoffs. He was good,
So if he can put it all together, and remember, 2 years ago he hit 290. So in spare playing time, but over like 80 games he hit 290. So
I'm with you. I think I'd like, from an optic standpoint, to watch Vazquez and Swihart and kind of just contrasting styles.
Two young guys.
Each guy is able to bring. Because I do still feel like Vazquez and Leon, as much as it worked last year and as much as everybody likes throwing a Leon, it just seems kind of redundant.
It is redundant, and it's boring.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't need to be boring. It just needs to be good. But.
And this is, we could sit here and talk about how they won the World Series with that tandem, but for the most part, that there was a black hole in that lineup.
Yeah.
Very little production coming from that spot. So I think with Swihart, you have the ability to sort of, fix that problem from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, it's a big position battle to watch.
So, all right. Well, what do you want to go next?
Sorry, Ricky, my mic fell off my shirt, so I don't know how long ago that happened, but
first podcast this spring.
I think it just happened. You're all good.
All right, we're getting word from the
crisis management
from the
here.
voice.
Either way, I would love to see Swihart and Vazquez.
Okay, cool. Good story.
Yeah, good story.
What do you want to do? You want to do a little rapid fire before we get out of here? I know we got some things we got to do.
Yeah, I got to go to Subway to pick up a catering order.
You're a busy man over there.
For our digital.
It's still spring
meeting.
training for us too.
Yeah.
All right, so
I can eat a bunch of sandwiches and
let's
get
fire
heartburn.
through some things so we can touch on, I think we hit on the main topics here, but some other things to watch at camp.
Just real quick, I don't want to, we haven't talked about the Pedroia thing.
There's a lot.
For me, that's a whole rabbit hole, and I don't really want to get into the Pedroia thing until we actually go out there and see him. Because right now it's just so much speculation and nobody knows, and it's such a mystery that you just talk out of your ass about it for an hour because who knows how it's going to be. So I think it's an important topic, but I kind of want to give it a couple weeks of spring training games to see how he's doing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So what's one other storyline that you are excited to watch as camp develops there?
One storyline to follow. Well, for me, honestly, it is the catching situation.
Okay.
I know.
You got nothing else? I mean, we just spent several minutes talking about that.
For me, okay, I would say it is. Is there a young bullpen arm that's going to make the roster out of spring training? And it's not a sexy storyline. It's not a big name thing. Last year was Bobby Pointer, but you have legitimate options. You have legitimate options in the minors, or AAA, and Schwerin, Darwinson, Hernandez, and Travis Lakins, who it's not just us talking about it. It's people that do the prospect rankings, people like Keith Law who talk about these guys who it sounds like they could be real contributors. And I don't think the Red Sox will give a roster spot to one of these guys unless they genuinely deserve it. And I'm curious to see if one of these guys, just has some dominant spring where he comes up, because that could solve a lot of your problems. I mean, someone like Jonathan Papelbon came out of nowhere to be the closer. He was a starter prospect, but he wasn't this huge blue chip prospect. He kind of came up out of nowhere at one point, and you never know. Bullpen arms are weird. You never know where these guys are going to come from. And maybe there's a guy there, and all of them throw hard. So them, and also talking about prospects.
It's the most volatile group in sports.
Yeah, I know.
A bullpen.
Them and the position prospects. How far away is Michael Chavis? How does he look in spring? Does he?
You're jumping ahead here.
Does he come out? Well,
some questions that I got for you. But.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, in general, how do some of these young guys look? Because I think the farm system made a big leap last year, began the season as one of the worst in the game. I think it ended the season as average, to maybe slightly below average. But it was a considerable jump, and let's see how some of these guys look if they make some progress. That's really what spring's all about for me. Let's get our look at the young guys, because we won't see them again until September probably.
Yeah. So. No, you mentioned the Dustin Pedroia knee situation. I think that's huge. It's just interesting to watch because it's really so unpredictable. I mean, we don't know what you're really.
And do they trust Eduardo Nunez at second? I don't think so. They clearly like him at third more, but they want to have
feels
Devers
like
full time.
If best case scenario is Pedroia plays 125 games maybe.
That is, I think, so optimistic.
And what kind of production you get? Who knows? I mean, he's 35 years old. Played all 3 games last year, so we'll see what happens. I think that's something to watch.
It's going to be different watching Pedroia this year, because if you ever go to Red Sox games and you just watch Pedroia, he's insanely active before every pitch. He gets down in his stance, he does this big hop, and he's jittering all over the place. He's so active before every pitch. And he said the other day, he's like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna look a lot different out there than fans remember.
Really stress the importance of knowing when to pull on the reins too.
Yeah.
In terms of preparation.
And can he do that given his personality and playing style? We'll find out.
First base might be sneaky interesting. What are you gonna get out of the Mitch Moreland, Steve Pierce situation?
True. Sam Travis, is he?
I was a little
no surprised
that they brought Pierce back. I kind of just pictured that being one of those classic midseason pickups, and then goes on to sign a bigger deal elsewhere. Kind of ride that momentum, but it's pretty clear he likes it here.
Yeah, they needed somebody at first that could hit lefties, and Steve Pierce can absolutely hit lefties. And they clearly don't think Sam Travis is anything special. I wonder what are they ever gonna move on from him? What's going on there? And Chavis, I think he's basically gonna be going forward as a first baseman. He's definitely not gonna play third with Devers there. That's another one. So, first base, does Chavis make a run?
I was going to say, what's one prospect that you're excited to watch in camp?
One prospect I'm excited to watch.
I've already listed a few. I'm going to tell you right now, C.J. Chatham.
C.J. Chatham?
Shortstop. Big lanky kid, second-round pick in 2016, a little bit of power potential. Probably going to start season like Double-A. I don't know how much you're going to see him in these spring training games, but that Xander Bogaerts free agency situation is coming up really quick. You know what I mean? They're going to need to make a decision about him after the season. I'm not saying that you have your replacement right there, but it just to start getting a look at the organizational depth you have at shortstop beyond Bogaerts, because you have a lot of these fringy utility guys that we've just
Right.
It's been a revolving door of those types. But do you
let's
have
see what he's
anybody in
got.
the system that's coming up that has the potential to play an everyday role in the middle of your infield? It's just, I think it's something to keep an eye on. Also, Bobby Dahlbeck.
Bobby Dahlbeck.
Just 'cause I
huge, a
love
lot of
his
homers,
raw
a lot of
power.
strikeouts. Perfect for today's game.
Yeah.
Mine is Darwinson Hernandez because
Really anybody in that bullpen.
Yeah,
a lot of
but-
relievers. It's wide open.
But it's just, we've seen whether it be Chavis, Tristan Cassis, the first round pick last year, is on the top of a lot of rankings. And then for Keith Law to come out and put Darwinson Hernandez #1, and a lot of the buzz that he's been getting leading up to spring. And I guess yesterday he threw and Pedro was watching, Chris Sale was watching. He had all the Red Sox brass watching. So they clearly, they're excited about this guy. And so let's see what he's got. I mean, if you get #1 ranking in any list, even if it's just Keith Law's, I mean, that piques my interest. I want to see what this guy's got, and spring training should give you an extended look at him.
One player from the Major League roster you're excited to watch this spring?
Excited?
Well, just anxious to see how they've evolved, whether they've changed, what you're kind of getting.
Well, I would say, for me, and I'll kind of tie it into my dark horse, I think Marco Hernandez is a really interesting person to watch in the spring.
Okay.
Because they love Marco Hernandez. And sometimes he's given them reason to feel that way. Most often not, because he's always hurt. But they've been keeping him on this roster. They think really highly of him. And I think, because I don't think they like Nunez at second, I don't know if they really would just want to do this Brock, Holt, Dustin Pedroia platoon. What if Pedroia's knee just blows out and you're stuck with Brock, Holt, and Eduardo Nunez as you were last year? I think Marco Hernandez is someone that if he proves he's healthy, he has a good spring, that could factor into this. And I mean, he's always hit. I think he's always looked comfortable at the plate. How he's been out for a long time. He's been on the 60-day DL the last 2 seasons. But he's back. He's supposedly healthy. He's always had talent, and if he has a good spring and he makes the team out of camp, it would not shock me if by June Marco Hernandez is getting the bulk of the playing time at second base.
All right, I'm going to stay in the infield. Let's say Rafael Devers.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I feel like it's very easy to overlook him because of just sort of the minimal impact that he had last year. But
But the playoffs.
let's not forget the upside that the guy has. I mean, he's still only 22. Anxious to see what he does defensively, but obviously how he adapts to Major League pitching now that he's seen a sizable workload.
I think we've seen enough to believe in the offense, especially in the playoffs. The fact, I think he's unflappable. I think that there's a lot of reason to believe in Devers. I think
he's got
what to watch is
he's got a little bit of that a little swagger to him, and the big moments.
I like he's really active in the batter's box when he,
It's incredibly entertaining, if nothing else.
He's got a lot of motions and irky jerky when he's walking away, and when he swings and misses, he's kind of funny to watch.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how the defense has progressed, if at all, because.
So if he
they're going to give him the
takes a
real
leap
shot
this year, you're talking about an offense that already was sick.
Right. If Rafael Devers turns progresses into what everyone forecasted and how he's teased you at times, if he turns into 290, 30+ home runs, I mean we're talking about a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
And it could happen. It's a very
and who knows
possible.
what type of role that could play in if JD Martinez is to opt out of his contract next year and go elsewhere when you need a middle of the order bat.
Right.
But we'll save that for another podcast. One non-roster invitee you would like to watch. This is always the fun one because it's such a dart throw. Like, you might as well just throw it at the wall, see if it sticks.
I'll go with Gorkys Hernandez.
Oh, you took my pick.
I figured I did. And for those who don't know, outfielder, I believe he is, how old is he? 31 years old. I don't necessarily know why they signed him because you have 4 outfielders.
Significant playing time at the major league level last seasons.
Last year with the Giants, he played in 142 games and hit, let's see, what did he hit? He hit 234, so not great, but he had 15 home runs, 40 RBI. So it seems like it's a guy who could have signed to be, a regular outfielder somewhere maybe. And so for him to just to sign a minor league contract with the Red Sox, I just wonder, maybe he comes in and he makes the team. I'm wondering, what's the deal with Gorkys Hernandez?
And what's the deal with Erasmo Ramirez?
Why did we sign an outfielder who played in 142 games, hit 15 home runs? Why did we sign him?
It's just organizational outfield depth. And
No,
maybe
I
that
know,
was one of those things where I know Jackie Bradley's name was tossed around in rumors, so maybe maybe there's something there. Who knows? I don't know. There's a few ways I'll go because you stole mine. just kind of anxious to see what a few of these veteran pitchers that they brought in have. You know, the Zach Putnams of the world, the Erasmo Ramirez's of the world.
Yeah, I think Erasmo Ramirez is a sneaky candidate. I think he's like a better, what was that guy, Rolandos Elias?
Rolandos Elias.
Yeah, Elias. He's like a better version of him, or not. I wouldn't say better, comparable. So who knows?
A couple catchers too to keep an eye on. Juan Centeno and Oscar Hernandez.
Okay.
If they ought to move a catcher, like these guys their names could be called. Their number could be called at some point if you ought to move one of your existing catchers, and then something was to happen to the catchers that stay. So I don't know.
One news thing to keep.
What about Bryce Brent's back in the system? Keep an eye on him. Bryce Brent's is back, baby.
Yes, you got Bryce Brent. You got Sam Travis, who has outfield time. You have Gorkys Hernandez. So I don't know what. Are they battling for AAA spots? It's weird. One news thing that I was going to say is John Heyman reporting Padres is still heavy in on Bryce Harper as well.
Well, that'd be
insane.
Be something, huh?
That'd be so. The two of the biggest stars in the game go out to San Diego,
awesome.
where you never see them. So then
you have identical contracts.
You could say 3 of the top 5 stars in the game: Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, and Manny Machado, all play, in Southern California at 10 o'clock every night, and you never see them. That, I think, would be bad for baseball.
Well, we'll see what happens between now and our next podcast. But one last question. As it stands right here, February 19th, 2019, put a number value on it. What are the chances of the Red Sox repeating as World Series champions?
I would say 20%.
That's big. That's
I would say
number.
Only because I think the American
solid.
League is still down. I still think the best American League teams are much better than the best National League teams. And you're going to have to get by the Yankees, the Astros, if the A's are really good this year. And that's really it. Maybe the Indians have a run in them. I don't know. I think Tampa could surprise people. But for the most part, that whole thing last year where you just ran roughshod over a garbage American League, sorry, Patriots. When you just destroy the American League, that's going to happen again this season. And so you should be in a position by the end of the year to be in the playoffs. And then once you're there, I mean, you still have you're the defending world champions for a reason. You should be in the conversation. And so I'll give them 20%.
Wow. I'll go 9%.
Yeah.
I don't want to give him quite the 10, so I'll bump it down a notch to 9. It's still, I think, is very respectable. I think the Yankees are going to be really good. I think the Rays, as you mentioned, they have the potential to be good. The Blue Jays, their prospects, they're going to be a pain in the ass this season.
They're going to be fun to watch.
I just think that the division is going to be potentially a little bit tougher this year. All right, well, we're going to get the hell out of here. But it was great to be back, Dakota.
Yeah, looking forward to doing it next week.
We're just scratching the surface of the Red Sox podcast for 2019, and I am pumped and jacked, as they say.
Yeah, I'm glad I could educate you on the uselessness of Craig Kimbrel.
We reined you in a little bit. I'm sure we'll get a full head of steam as we get into March, April, and all the rest of those goddamn months. All right, let's go. I'm Ricky Doyle. That is Dakota Randall for the NESN Red Sox podcast. We'll be back.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week at various points throughout the spring, and then once the season starts off, you will be hearing from us quite frequently, where I'm sure we have plenty of complaints, plenty of praise, and plenty of just good baseball banter. Am I right?
Compelling takes.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. See you, everyone.